Hey everyone. So this week I'm going to tell another story about nursing, and so hopefully you guys enjoy it. All right, so let me set the story up. Of course, I worked in OB, and at the hospital where I worked, if they were short on nurses in other areas, and you weren't busy, they could call to your area and actually request a nurse to come from your area and go to another area. So this night they had actually requested a nurse, and we kept a list of whose turn it was to go and float to another department. And of course, it was Tracy's turn to float to another department. So they sent me to a department where it has elderly patients, where they have Alzheimer's or dementia and a stroke. They've folks who had a stroke, and it had messed with their mind and stuff. So they sent me down to this department, and I go down there. And when I get down there, the nurse was actually trying to get this guy to leave his clothes on. He was like just trying to work it and get his clothes off. He also has an IV. And so when I come in, she's sort of struggling with this guy. And I said, hey, I'm here. I says, what would you like for me to do? And she said, you're going to be taking care of this gentleman. And I said, oh, okay. She said, but first we got to get him changed before the nurse assistant leaves the department. And I'm like, okay, why is the nurse assistant leaving the department? But anyway, so we get him in the bed, and of course he's paralyzed on one side from his stroke, and they have an IV on the opposite side of his arm that's paralyzed, okay? And then in this arm, they have an arm board to keep his arm straight because he's already pulled 2 IVs out. They're trying to get this medicine in him, right? And she said, we're going to get him changed first. And she said, and then you're going to be watching him to make sure he doesn't pull this IV out. And I'm okay. Well, the whole time she's talking to me, the guy's doing this. He's going, her, trying to pull that IV out with his teeth. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a really fun night, right? So finally, we couldn't get him in the bed, They had to call actually a gentleman from ER to come over and help us get him in the bed and get him changed and stuff. And we get a new set of clothes put on him. Now, these clothes, you have to understand, they've sewn them together so that he won't rip his clothes off because he wants to be naked all the time. So we get his brief changed, we get him in the bed, get his clothes on him, get him back in the bed. And then she said, here, you can just come out here. And so we rolled the bed out into the commons area, and they pulled me up a chair, and she said, just sit here and watch, make sure he doesn't pull that IV out. And I said, easy enough, I can do this. And so I sat by him, and we sat there for quite a while. But the whole time I'm sitting there, this guy is just like, he's just moving, trying to get his hands down his pants, get his clothes off and stuff. And then like he kept going, trying to get that IV out. I'm like, no. I said, we're not going to pull that IV out. I said, we got to get this medicine in you so you can get better. And I'm just trying to convince him. Well, one of the times I looked around the room, and there's all these people sitting in the commons area watching TV. And I look over, and there's these 2 little old ladies over, and they were actually in front of me. They were sitting there, and they were watching me. And so it was like almost like it was a spectacle. They were watching to see how I was going to handle this guy, right? And so I'm not lying, that guy just kept on moving. They gave him his medicine. It didn't make him sleepy or nothing, just keeps on moving. And he finally works that arm out of his arm board. Well, I didn't realize he had worked his arm out of his arm board. And when I was standing there, he reaches over and he just punches me right in the belly. And when he did, I was just like, oh. And I'm trying to keep my composure, because when somebody hits you like that, you first of all, you have a natural instinct that you want to hit somebody back. So I'm just holding my belly, just going, just trying to keep my composure. And I look at him and I said, hey, listen here. I said, we won't be hitting. I said, that's not nice. I said, we don't hit. I said, and I'm just trying to help you. I'm trying to keep that IV in there so we can get this medicine in you and get you better. And he's just looking at me, and when he is, he is laughing. He's not forming complete words or anything because he can't speak because of his stroke. But he's laughing, and I'm noticing a couple of words, and one starts with the F and one starts with the B. And I'm like, he's calling me names. And I'm like, guess what? It doesn't matter how many times you call me names and what you call me. I says, I'm still going to be nice to you, and I'm still going to take care of you like that. And I look over at them women, and they're just like this big-eyed. I mean, they're watching it like a sport, you know. And they're wondering what I'm going to do because this guy's just punched me. So they're sitting there like that, and I mean, he did. He just constantly moving. And about 3 hours in, I'm telling you, I was just dripping sweat because I was constantly having to try to contain him, keep him, his IV in and all that kind of stuff. And I look over at them women, and they just look at me, and they're just like, just like this little sheepish grin. And I look around the room, and all the other people had gone to bed, except these two little old ladies. But everybody else had gone to bed. So it was us three girls. It was these two ladies over and me, and then this guy. And so I look at them, and they're smiling at me like that. And I just sort of stand up and I go, only 9 more hours to go. I was thinking, if they're going to look at this like a sport, I'm just going to treat it like one. And so they were just laughing, carrying on, and this guy, he's just cursing me and going on and stuff. Well, the deal was he kept trying to hit me, and every time he had tried to hit me, I was ready for him after that first hit, and he just grazed my belly. I'd sort of just jump back like that, and I'd look over, and them little old ladies was just like waiting to see what I was going to do. Now, finally, a CNA, comes and relieves me, and then I get to go back to OB, and I was very, very glad because I was working my tail off trying to keep this guy's IV in his shoulder. Well, anyway, so how am I going to point this to him? In the Bible, in Matthew chapter 5, that's where all the Beatitudes are at. And one of the Beatitudes is, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Now, do you ever feel like you're just the peacemaker, like at work, you always got those people who want to argue or fight, or, in healthcare, sometimes it's that patient that just wants to fight you. But God will bless you for being a peacemaker. And sometimes it's just, you need that other person in there to intercept stuff because, it's in every workplace, and I try to tell people that when I work with them. It's like, it's in every workplace. You always have somebody who wants to keep stirring the pot, but you have to be the peacemaker. So, some of the things that I would do is I would say, hey, let's just not talk about that, or, maybe they're having a bad day, or, maybe we should pray for them. Sometimes it's really hard not to get involved because you want to do the right, but God will bless us if we tend to be the peacemaker, and that's what we need to do. We need to be peacemakers. Sometimes you have to be the peacemaker amongst your kids. Yeah. So the deal is, you can be a peacemaker, and you can also point to him, because the deal is, it's important for us to try to keep the peace and not stir up the strife. The Bible talks about stirring up strife. So don't be stirring up strife this week, and be a peacemaker in your place, all right? Have a great week, and I'll see you here next week. Bye.